Right, there is a lot to discuss about Liverpool versus Leeds. Liverpool obviously drawing away from home at Leeds, a fairly buoyant club at the moment, and there is a lot to evaluate about Leeds, but there is also a lot to evaluate about Liverpool. So welcome back to Laurence McKenna channel. Let's dive into it, where I know it wasn't a preferable result, and we can do if, buts and maybes, but for a minute, let's just talk about what we actually observe, what we actually see, and then we can get into the if, buts and maybes. You guys are more than welcome. First of all, let's just talk about some of the big headlines of the game, right? The first one, the starting lineup. Liverpool started without Mo Salah for yet another game. And a lot of people are reading into this. Maybe I'm also reading into it. I'd love to know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Starting all these games without Mo Salah may be a technique to deal with his fitness, knowing that he's about to play a lot of very intense games, go away. You know, he's going to be the main focus of that Egypt side, or one of the main focuses. He's going to be a guy who's going to be heavily relied upon in that period. A, we need to kind of show that there is another option. And B, I think we need to give him that rest going into that period if he is in what, you know, we might call like a health red zone. The flip side of that coin, if I'm being too kind, is that Mo Salah is not the future of this Liverpool side. And we've known that since before the start of this season. We knew that maybe he was transitioning out the team. We knew that in buying Isak and Ekitike and making Ngamoa a first-team player and bringing in Wirtz was going to shift the emphasis in this side. We didn't know how Mo Salah was going to react to that. I'm not saying that I can read into Mo's reaction. I've not seen it in person. I've not seen it personally. But we've also seen games where he hasn't been enacting some of these big tactical things that you would seem Arne Slot is asking this side to enact. And the frustration with that was that, well, he wasn't doing it. And we needed him to do it because overall in a system, you need people to enact the system. But Mo Salah was so dedicated to that system last year in what felt like a bit of a last dance type scenario. Mo Salah was so dedicated to Jurgen Klopp's system in what felt was just like a brilliant, era for him, but also at times like a last dance scenario. He now doesn't have that. And this side is in transition. They are transitioning from a point of obvious power, but they are transitioning. But in that transition, what we found is Mo will very openly or very publicly not always, despite creating chances and being very well liked clearly amongst those teammates, be the preference of what Arne Slot wants. Now, some of you will say, who cares what Arne Slot wants? He's not going to be at the club much longer, blah, 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 blah. We can discuss that in a whole other video. My point would be, in this period, Mo Salah's role is changing at Liverpool. It is changing to a bit part experienced veteran player who can pass on a lot of his experience and take Liverpool into the next era, leaving the club in a healthy state and allowing Liverpool to move forward, leaving a legacy which is, brilliant or whatever. All of that is to say, yes, we're moving on in this front line. And in this period, Mo Salah will have been asked to accept some of that moving, some of that, do you know what I mean? In all of that, I know that that will be difficult for any player who was the fulcrum of that side last season and had so much love, so much license, so much change. This Liverpool side didn't look like they were scoring with him, and it didn't look like we are doing incredibly without him, and that's what I want to talk about. I don't think the Mo Salah is the on-off thing in this team. I think there are plenty of other issues in this side. But I think that maybe Mo is contributing to some of the issues that coaching-wise they didn't want to do within the side. And that's not me saying I think he's toxic. That's not me saying I think he's negative. I don't think there's a public show of aggression, though I do think it looks bad publicly. It's me saying I think that this team is moving away from him and they need to commit. And I respect the level of commitment from Arne Slot and probably just Liverpool's footballing staff, because moving on from a big player is difficult. It might feel humiliating, it might feel angering, it might feel any of those things. But it will rile people up even more when then we are not winning those games, when then things don't quite look as rosy as we would love them to in this period, because we haven't quite worked out the balance in this side because of fitness, because of shape, because of signings, whatever it is. And all of that came out today against Leeds. In the first half, yes, we dominated a lot of it, but we did not create enough clear-cut chances. Yes, we created moments, or yes, we created the path into those moments, and yes, the movement again from Florian Wirtz and the balance within the side, and again, sometimes the midfield looks a little bit empty at times, but the balance in the side looked better. The side moved more towards balance. I still don't know what that means. And I've got to admit, a lot of my analysis of these big games now, just any of these games, it's struggling because it's like I don't almost understand why I'm analysing some of it. It's a bit like, well, if Slot's not going to be here much longer, why are we trying to work out what is going on? And if Slot is here much longer, this can't continue, so why are we doing this? I still think a lot of our original conclusions stick. I still think there are some players who are much more into the Arne Slot project and some that are not. I still think there are a lot of players that are transitioning into time at Liverpool and there are some that are not. I still think there are some that are mourning heavily, and I still think there are some who are obviously bedding into the team and not quite the same emotional state as some of these guys who've been there for a long time. And I still think that there are a lot of leaders within this team and technical proficiency within the side to turn this around. Which is where my frustration comes, that when I look at 8 points from 30, below a third of the points that were available to Liverpool, I feel frustrated. Because I look at this game and I think, if we'd have had repeatable structures and confidence in the structure that we had, we would have earned more points in that time and will be closer to Arsenal at the top of the table, who've just dropped points against Villa at the top. Because this Premier League season is a lot harder, I think, than people are realising. And it's not to say that the only side that will be therefore good will be City or Arsenal. I think there are a lot of very good teams in this league. I think there are a lot of good teams in this league last season and the season before that as well. But I think football is in a place now where it's a lot easier to level things, or it's a lot more tactically, we're kind of in the balance and in the mix a little bit more, because frankly, the legacy of someone like Jurgen Klopp is now showing. The pressing, the intensity, the need for the whole team to be engaged, the need for teams to move in unison, all these kind of things. And if you can nail that, you can level games against top-class talent a lot easier. Liverpool have really suffered from that in recent games. You can kind of see that in the reaction of Arne Slot for the third goal for Leeds. It was kind of like, well, what do you expect? But the answer and the frustration is we shouldn't be in that position in the first place. But equally, we did not create repeatable chance-making structures which gave me levels of confidence. Ekitike created the goal completely off his own back. Yes, he was pressing within a structure, or he was kind of following a pass, wasn't necessarily pressing. He was putting on pressure. And he got a goal. The second one possibly also comes from pressure / pressing / just some pressure in midfield onto Liverpool. And the third one is, like, again, brilliance from Liverpool's midfield and Dominic Szoboszlai. None of those are repeatable factors that in high-quality games we will be able to repeat. Other big teams will not get caught out like that, game in, game out. We need game in, game out repetition of chances. And yes, Florian Wirtz is an underserved assister. Mo Salah has created the third most opportunities in the Premier League this season. But Liverpool are rebalancing, and you can see that. And the control is coming. The balance is coming. My concern is how long we get to implement that, and whether the players are acting because they want to give Arne Slot a good send-off, or whether the players are reacting because they want to keep Arne Slot. There doesn't seem to be very much support, or at least public support from the manager from any of these players, which kind of concerns me, / maybe they're just being told, don't say that because that doesn't sound particularly good. And, it's also not your position to say. We don't want to be making these kind of decisions. We don't want there to be shown to be some sort of a schism within the squad. But it's very clear that Liverpool's confidence is having a big part in this season and is having a big part in this overall structure. Liverpool 2-0 up after Ekitike had taken 2 chances really beautifully, dispatched them both excellently, in kind of like a mid-pressure scenario. He didn't really have a guy on his shoulder, but in both times, he really took his time, got his distance away from those players and dispatched, and I was really impressed with that. Love Ekitike, I think he's a great player. I also think he's being slightly too heroed at the moment because he is brilliant, but there are also other things he can do in build-up, which I think will massively improve for Liverpool, and I think that will come as structure takes kind of hold of this side. And I also think that as Liverpool get through this kind of cloudy, what feels like a very heavy period over the club, we will see a lot more of what this team is capable of. I was watching the piece about grief that the sports journalists or whatever their names are, sports agents, did the other day. And they were saying, like, Liverpool will come out this other side of the collective grief, the individual grief, all these kind of things based around Diogo Jota. But that might not be until January, February. And then it may be too late for Arne Slot. But we also have to give these players time to actually process this, time to work on this. And that is part of our supporting factor. And maybe it is a little crass to speak about how long Arne Slot has left in the Liverpool job or any of these things, when actually we don't know. But the results shouldn't be what Liverpool base their 5-year future on, the 2-3-year future on with Arne Slot. But it is very clear that there are some psychological elements that are having an impact on this side, and Arne hasn't quite had the opportunity or the tools to turn that around to, you know, make this into something that is positive for Liverpool. And I respect the way he speaks. I think he's a man with dignity. I think he's a man who, I get that a lot of people are reframing his comments, but I get he's a man with dignity. I think the problem is he's not bolstering the confidence of this Liverpool team at all. The problem being, I think that's because a lot of these players are in transition. McKenna, Salah, all these guys, people who've either had their head turned or have been kind of put in a position where they know that they're not the immediate future of the club. Salah, in that Saudi might come in from in January. I know it's only a rumour, but you get what I'm saying. He's looking at his immediate future at the club, and his immediate future is this season. And Konate, because he was also looking at his immediate future at the club. And I look at that and I think, how different would the game be if we had other, like other options, another player on the bench in Salah's position, or someone starting in Salah's spot, not position, but spot in the team? If we had those options, how different would it be? If we had someone else starting or had the option to not start Konate, how different would this be? And we can do the if, buts and maybes just for a second. Because Arsenal did lose today, I think there's got a fairly big impact right now, showing that you can sometimes go too early. I don't think it means that Arsenal are no longer the favourites. City look fantastic, but I think Arsenal are still the favourites in the league. You can go too early, though, on lauding a side. And in a good moment, you can say, these guys are the best. I think that has to be you can repeatable over a season. Replicable, I was going to say. Replicable over a season. And it is, I think that is. But we would have been, where are we at? I just want to look at standings just for a second. And again, if, buts and maybes, look at the standings. Say that we take 3 more points from this period. No, call it 5, right? Say that we didn't draw this and we won another. 23, 5, 28. We are within 5 points of Arsenal. Now, is that Arsenal having a bad season? Or is that Liverpool having a mid-season? Or what is it? I think it's overall just showing Liverpool moved in another direction when everyone else moved in another direction. We didn't quite catch up with where everyone else was moving, and we've been a little bit behind the curve. We've been analysing, we've been kind of licking our wounds. The players lost a lot of confidence in that time. There are a lot of other implicating factors. And now you see against Leeds, there are still stupid decisions being made because we're exhausted, because we don't have control on the ball, because mentally we are still maybe a little bit behind, but possibly also looking to get ahead, and we're transitioning out of that fragile period into this kind of, hey, let's all just chill. And that is my frustration right now. I don't think judging a manager on these 3 results was ever what FSG were going to do, or Richard Hughes or Michael Edwards. I think they know what they want their managers to do. I think they know the future of this club, whether Arne Slot turns it around or not. I think they know what's going to happen tactically, whether it's Arne Slot that's doing it or another manager that's doing it. I think they know what happens tactically, whether Mo Salah stays or goes. But there were some individual performances in there today that were not acceptable. Konate, the decision he made that gave away the penalty, it's not a light thing. He takes him out. He slides. It was silly. He let them back into the game. Then the second opportunity, Liverpool just caught. It's a really high quality goal. There's just too many bodies in one place. And again, there's no structure in the side. Arne Slot's responsibility. And we're lacking confidence. We don't know what to do in those moments. We're coming out of a very repeatable system and into a new, why don't you judge it kind of thing. And it's not working right now. And finally, the final goal is unfortunate, but it is real. We shouldn't be letting them into that position late in the game. And we knew when they got that late set piece that it was going to be frustrating, it was going to be difficult. I had that feeling for a long time in this game. Again, there will be people who will do tactical analyses, and we will do some tactical analysis tomorrow. It is frustrating to watch this team right now because I do think there are some people who are worthy of, I think the fact that Cody Gakpo is soldiering on in this period is worthy of respect. And I think there are a lot of people who he's catching a lot of strays in this period. You know, I don't think he's a bad player. I just think he's being asked to do very specific things. And those things have a purpose within this side. I respect that. Would another manager maybe do the same? I'm not sure. I'd be interested to see. That's the weird thing. That's the kind of sad thing, is what you want is that your manager goes, hey, I know what's going on with this. I know where we're at. Here's what we're going to do with Cody. At the moment, we feel too predictable. We feel too, oh, there's Cody again doing that thing. Oh, there's Ekitike again doing it. There's Wirtz. And Wirtz kind of pops up, but he needs that latitude. He needs people that are going to surprise the opposition and people that are going to play with his responsiveness. And we don't have that right now. Maybe because it's not being coached into them, but also maybe because the players are a little tired, the players are a little dazed, the players are a little confused right now. Again, not an excuse, these are all professional footballers, but you get my point. And again, I'm seeing it again today. So we can do this if buts and maybes with points, but the point is we don't deserve those points right now. And the wider point is, even just a minor difference in some of our performances, be that with Arne Slot or another coach, we would be in this title race. Being 5 points off Arsenal, if we get better results, go through any of these games, right? I know we got absolutely thrashed in some of them, so we should not be assuming that we did well. Forest, we were in that game for a long period of that game, but I get your point. City, we were not. Sunderland, sure. But before that, Palace, we lost 3-0, bear that in mind. That was in the cup, obviously, but you get my point. Brentford, 3-2, shouldn't have been letting that happen. We had to kind of recover that late on. Let me just go back to these matches even more. I'm going back through these games where it's like, should we really have been losing in this game? Manchester United, Chelsea were the better team in that game, but you get my point. Palace, Southampton, Everton, we won against. Burnley. God, there's just so many weird little games in there that we've won, and then weird little games that we've lost. The problem being, if we hadn't have had this big drop-off, this massive confidence drop-off, I think we will be much closer. Just any of these, you know? And that's my frustration right now. It's not about specifically Mo Salah, specifically Ekitike. I think, again, Florian Wirtz was very good today. I thought Dominic Szoboszlai, again, admirable. I think having Conor Bradley back is good, but I think he needs, in order to be really good, in order to be top class, Conor Bradley has to get a run of games in the side, and his fitness has to match that. Kirkez, I actually quite liked his kind of roaming role today. I quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed Curtis Jones. I quite enjoyed McAllister when he came on. Excellent moment from McAllister to step over the ball and let Dominic Szoboszlai onto it. He very open stride, really great to see. Again, 2 wide forwards, 2 10s playing in the middle. It's what we were playing last year. There's a very repeatable element here. And it's not about shape. It's about personnel in these positions, in these areas, and their reading of the game, their plasticity within the side. That is what is going on at Liverpool right now, where I think what we've tried to upgrade, we've tried to get ahead of the curve again, and we've not even caught the wave. We tried to get ahead of the wave, and we're not even on it yet. And I think that will massively damage confidence, but I also think that will be explained to some of these players. And I think that's why, when I look at it, I think the only thing that will cause players to leave, or managers to leave, or managers to get sacked, whatever it is fundamentally them turning on him emotionally and personally. And that is my concern, because I don't know where the players are at right now. I think AFCON will be a good time to remove Salah from the group and see where the group is at. I also think that January cannot come soon enough, and we are only starting in December with some difficult games to come. The performance was not good enough against Leeds. We did collapse. I don't think it was a collapse in the same sense. And weirdly, all of these collapses have felt quite different. They've almost felt very passive collapses, and that's been a big problem. Again, the passive nature of a lot of our side. But let's see what comes immediately. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments below. Of course, there's a membership down here where I've got a bunch of videos about Arne Slot and a bunch of videos about lots of other things. Down there, of course, there is Patreon, and then, of course, there is also the absolutely free Discord. Go take a look at that. Go tell me what you're thinking about the side at the moment, and please stop bringing up Chiesa. He's not fit enough to make it through a full 90. That's why he's not playing. It is genuinely that simple. He's just not fit enough to make it through a full 90, so you can't start him. Anyway, maybe in time, maybe in, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I will see you guys in a little while. Appreciate you. Much love.